Hey guys, Patrick Wind here, and in this very practical model I'm going to show you how you can actually create lookalike audiences. So let's get started. The first thing that you have to know when it comes to lookalike audiences is that you can only build them based on custom audiences. Okay, so in order to create a lookalike audience, first you have to have created a custom audience like this one, right? So this you see it like a audience type, custom audiences, and if you would have saved audiences or lookalike audiences, you cannot build a lookalike audience based on a lookalike audience or also not on a saved audience. You can only build it based on a custom audience. So the first thing that you have to do in order to create a lookalike audience is to create a custom audience. In our wonderful example here, we were lucky because we already created some custom audiences up front. So we could use, for example, the custom audience page view 7. So everyone who visited our website in the past 7 days. Sounds interesting. So let's tell Facebook to find more people that have the same characteristics like my page view visitors from the last 7 days. So how could we do that? Well, you can select this custom audience here, and then go on actions and create lookalike. So that's pretty straightforward, right? And if you click then on that, it would automatically take it as a source here. So the typical way that the majority of people doing create a lookalike audience is they go on here, create audience, lookalike audience, and then in source they use for they search for whatever. For example, this one, page view 7, and from here they work. That's good. You can of course do that. It's just easier to understand what technically happens if you just click here. You choose the custom audience that you want to use as a seed or nucleus audience, and you go on actions and then you create a lookalike. So, but it's technically completely the same. It's just easier to understand what happens. So the source is our page view 7, and then we just have to decide in which country, right? So for example, we say Spain, and then the level of similarity, so between 1 and 10%, just depends on how many people from the overall Facebook population in this country we want to certain level of similarity. For example, if we say in Spain there are roughly 25 million Facebook profiles, then of course the 10% of the Spanish population that are the most similar to my page view 7 is going to be 2.5 million people. However, if I just take the 1%, of course it's only 250,000, and the 5% is like the half of what the 10% is. Okay, and this would be completely the same if I would take another custom audience. You see, for example, or even if I take the Instagram, the engagers, so the Facebook engagers here, this one. Of course, the 10% is always gonna be in Spain the 2.5%, and the 5% is always gonna be the 1.2 million, and 1% is always gonna be this. So this really is independent of the seed audience you choose. It just depends on the country that you choose. So nice. For example, page view 7, so people who visit our website in the last 7 days in Spain, the 10%, just to get started. Create audience, and we don't even have to name it, don't even have to label it. It's gonna be created here automatic. It's gonna be labeled automatically. But of course, from the page view 7, we could also create a lookalike that is smaller. For example, the 5%. Spain. You see, it's very, very fast. So it's a rather abstract topic, but it's technically super easy to create it. It's just clicking here like 2 buttons, and we've already created 3 different lookalikes: the 1%, the 5%, and the 10%. And we could do, of course, the same for another country, right? For example, Germany. Let's make this faster. Let's just create always the 10%. Okay, and first I want to show you just how it works with the countries, and then I give you my recommendation what's the perfect percentage. Because we could also do, for example, entire regions. So for example here, countries, So if you click here on browse, it can not only be countries, but it could also be regions. For example, the entire Euro area, which includes all of those countries here. So we would be able to take, and you see that 10% of the entire Euro area is 17.3 million. So therefore, there are 173 million users, Facebook users in the Euro area. This is of course very, very big, right? So we would lower it down. And even the 1% is 1.7 million, which is not that bad, right? So we could probably try to work with that. And there's also since the small, which is not in the same country. Interesting. Okay, interesting. So in this case it would not work. But what we could do, for example, is creating create an audience, lookalike audience, page view 7, location Germany, and also Spain, right? So we have two different countries. That's also possible. That's something that many people also don't know. And of course, like you also need them in Germany. So that's already good learning, right? And the important question that many of you will have is, what should I use? Should I use the 1%, the 5%, the 10%, or what's the ideal audience size for me in order to be profitable with my prospecting ads? Well, what we strongly recommend is that you choose the level of similarity, so the level of the lookalike audience that gives you an audience size between 800,000 and 1.5 million people. Okay, so we see very clearly the 1% is too small in Spain. The 2% is also too small. The 3%, well, it's smaller than 800,000. So what's nice is the 4% and the 5%, or you could either discuss the 6%. Okay, so 4%, 5%, or 6% in Spain is recommendable. Okay, so independent of the source, if you work in Spain, we recommend using something between the 3, 4, 5, and 6%. The 3% is a little bit too small, but you can still test it. So, but in Spain, go away of don't use the 1 or 2%, they're too small, and also don't use the 7, 8, 9, or 10%, they're too big. So if you work in Spain, use the 3, 4, 5, and 6% and just test it. Of course, you can use different sources here. For example, the Facebook engagers. Okay, and once again, 3, 4, 5, 6% in Spain. However, if you work in Germany, it's different, right? Because it's a bigger market. So here the 3% is of course in here, but the 6% is already too small, too big. So I would do 3, 4, and 3, 4, and I would also test the 5. Okay, and what about just an extreme example, the United States of America? Okay, you see their overall Facebook population is 215 million. Therefore, the 10% is 21.5 million. Here, of course, the 6%, 5%, 4%, they're super big. So in the US, I would only use the smallest one. So the 2% is already way too big. So I'd rather go for the 1% in the United States. So that was good. That was interesting. But now the question is, what is the perfect seed audience? What is the perfect nucleus that I should really use to create my lookalike audiences? Well, as I said, it has to be a custom audience. So it could be anything from a customer file, every traffic that is measured from your pixel, but also internal data from the Facebook engagement or Instagram engagement, or people who viewed a specific video, offline activity, and app activity. So customer file, you could just create an Excel file, a CSV file, upload it here with your customer list. That's an option. And then once you have this custom audience, for example, let's say this is the custom audience that's called user list derived from your file, then you can click here, create lookalike, and that's it. That's one option. Second option is very easy with all the internal engagement. So you could use from video, lead form, full screen, Facebook page, Instagram business profile. So let's just do that. People have engaged. Instagram engaged 365. Okay, nice. If we take this one, create a lookalike audience from that in Austria, for example, to bring some variation in here. Austria is a very small country, and therefore you see, like, you know, like even the 10% is smaller than 800,000, but it's the only option that we have. Or we do it together with Germany. Okay, then we can do Austria and Germany, and then here we can work nicely between the 2, 3, 4%. Okay, so as we have learned in the example from Espresso, it makes sense to operate within our profitable range, so between 800,000 and 1.5 million. And if what we've learned from the example is that the smaller it is, the more similar the audiences, the lookalike audience is to my seed audience. Therefore, what I would recommend if I would have only one choice is I would even go to this one, even though it's a little bit lower than 800,000. But I would create this one in Austria and Germany, the 2%, because it's roughly the 800,000, and it's the most. Those are those most similar ones. Okay, create audience. There's also another very. Okay, let's do it in Spain. And here in Spain, you would of course want another percentage. There is another very interesting option. For example, if you create a lookalike audience, you see there are advanced options. So for example, if you do it in Spain, advanced option gives you the possibilities to, from scratch, create already several levels. For example, we had here, we built on our page views, the 1%, 5% and 10%, but this could actually be done in a faster way. So for example, if you want to do it on the Instagram engagers, we could take the Instagram engagers, action, create lookalike in Spain. And then we go on advanced options. Let's say we want three audiences. We had the 1%, 10% and 5%, right? So if we do it this way, it would create down here the 1%, the 5% minus the 1%, and then the 10% minus the 5%. This is a very advanced way because it will allow us to not have any overlaps. You see, because it's not just the 5%, it's the 1 to 5%. So it only takes this area here, and it would exclude this one automatically. So that's a very advanced and very cool way to do it, which allows you to not have any overlaps. You see, it does not only say lookalike 5%, it says lookalike 1 to 5% because the 1% is already excluded. So that's a very interesting advanced way. So the question is now, which are the custom audiences that we recommend you to really use in your campaigns? Well, go into custom audiences, website traffic. That's usually the hottest one. Well, the hottest one is if you have a customer file with very high qualitative customers and then build a lookalike on that. The other way is, but here the problem is you would lose some people if the Facebook match. So if it doesn't find all the profiles, so the best one would always be website traffic, and then you take the purchases. Okay. But for example, in this specific case, we don't have any purchases from this test account, but it would show up here from your events. You would have here view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, and purchase. So you would take the purchases. Let's imagine this one says now purchases from your events page view. Let's say this says purchasers. Then you would take the 180. Then you call it, for example, purchase 180. That's a very good one because it takes all the people that have purchased from your website, and it knows all of them already. So that's very good. What else could we do? We could, of course, We could of course create, let's imagine this is add to cart, okay, from your events, add to cart, 180 days, add to cart, 180. That is good. We can perfectly create website traffic. Let's imagine this is view content, last 180 days, 180 days, 180 days. And from all of those audiences, we can create our lookalike audience. Lookalike, for example, in Spain. This one. So if we would have enough data here it always says you the size. So if you have more than, well, the official recommendation for Facebook is to have at least 1,000 people in here, okay? But it's difficult to get 1,000 people in here if you're starting. So let's say if you have at least 300 to 400 people in this purchase 180 audience, it's a good idea to create this lookalike audience. If you have less than 300 here, well, maybe you have already around 1,000 add to carts. And if you don't have even 1,000 add to carts, then you would have at least 1,000 view content 180s, right? So you can always create in Spain lookalike 3% view content 180, okay? Once we have more data, we can always be more and more specific when it comes to refining our seed audience, because the better quality we have, the higher the quality we have in our custom audience, the better the lookalike is going to be. So for example, if we say website traffic, and then let's imagine those are the purchasers for the past 180 days, we could refine them. So in the case of purchase, here in refine by, they give you the opportunity to say, for example, they have spent at least 100. So in the case of purchase, here gives you the amount spent is greater or equal to, or whatever. Okay. What we could also do is that the frequency needs to be greater or equal to 2. So for example, let's imagine this is purchase. We could say everyone who has purchased on my website at least 2 times over the past 180 days. So if this would be purchase and the frequency of purchase is greater than equal to 2%, that's actually a very good one. That works very nice. Okay, and then on this custom audience, we can always create a lookalike. You see how fast it is to create lookalikes? It's amazing. So like this. Okay. And then there is one last custom audience that I wanted to share with you that you should really know, because it works very nicely, is visitors by time spent. So you have all website visitors, you have people who visit a specific website. For example, let's take this one, okay? So people who have watched, came to this website, people came to, okay, the URL contains full funnel in the past 180 days. So people viewed full funnel video 180. That's an option. And everyone who visits this specific page. What many experts also talk about is that that one lookalike that works very nicely is people who visit a specific page, and then you can then you choose on your own website the URL. So here the URL of the imprint or the impressum or contact us page. Okay, contact impressum imprint about us. So people who actually were really interested in our product. So they were not just coming to our website and took a look at one specific product, but they were interested in one specific, they wanted to know more about us. Okay, and you can also do, and also, so people who have come to our impressum and they also came to the about us page. Okay, so a few people viewed impressum and about last 180 days. 180, by the way, is the maximum you can. Value must be less than 180. Okay. As might say, that's good. And then of course, based on all of this, we can create lookalike audiences. Create lookalike Spain 3%. And then there is one last one that I wanted to share with you because it works very nicely. Custom audiences, website traffic, and then you choose visitors by time spent, and you take the, depending on the volume that you have, you could take the top 25, the top 10, or top 5% of people who will spend the most time on your page. So in the best case, you take the top 5% over the past 180 days, and you take visitors by time spent top 5%, 180, great. And then you create a lookalike based on that, and that's also lookalike that's gonna work very nicely. So create lookalike in Spain, 3%, and we're good. So guys, that was a very cool session. I really enjoyed it a lot. And to sum up, we have created several new lookalike audiences. Okay, we have seen that we can base them only on custom audiences. We cannot base a lookalike audience on another lookalike audience, or not even on a saved audience. We can only base it on a custom audience. We could of course always select a custom audience that we have already created up front. We just click here and then action create lookalike audience, or we could start from scratch, create a custom audience, then the ones we have created we can choose here and then create a lookalike audience here, or we can go into create audience, lookalike audiences, and then choose it within the source section. And the options that we have are basically numberless because they're infinite, because we could always choose different levels of lookalike, like 3%, 1%, 10%. However, we recommend to choose a level of similarity that gives you around 800,000 to 1.5 million people. You could use a lookalike audience in different countries, and you can use advanced ways to create custom audiences in order to create lookalike audiences that are more accurate and more specific. So we could refine it by frequency, for example, or we could choose people who visit a specific page, like the Impressum or the Contact Us page or the About Us page, or we could even do visitors by time spent, the top 25, top 10, or even top 5%. So guys, I hope this was as interesting to you as it was for me, and see you in the next video. Thank you.